Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters video. Alright, let's go ahead and let's start this whole new series, again based on your suggestions. I thought I would start it off a day earlier because I had some extra free time today, and then on top of that, the information that I found on this cryptid was pretty damn interesting. In fact, the most interesting thing I found out about it was, to this day, there is an actual real life city, an actual city over 500,000 strong, that is named after this cryptid. I have never heard of that before. I can't think of any other situation where a cryptid has been named after a city. In fact, the name itself comes from the purported first encounter with this entity, and once I share this information you'll see exactly why that is so interesting. And what I'm talking about here is this entity, this cryptid known as the Pontianak, which you'll see a picture of here. It goes by different names actually. The most common name is the Pontianak, but it also goes by a different name called the Matianak, and then another one called the Kuntilanak. And so this particular entity, at least for purpose of this video, I'm going to call it by its most popular designation, which is the Pontianak. And what it is essentially, it's a mixture of things. It's a cryptid, but it's also reported to be a ghost, and then at the same time is reported to be a vampire. So it's a weird amalgamation of these several different things all at once, but it absolutely has been around for a long time, since the founding of the city that I talked about. That's the city, by the way. The name of it is Pontianak, and it's there in Indonesia, and I'll talk about in a couple of minutes how that came to be, the purported encounter. But what this thing is and what it does, basically it's like this. Going back to its cryptid persona, basically it's something that was a real life person, in this case a woman, but if the woman died while pregnant and then certain procedures weren't done after the death, then it turns into this cryptid, which is something that can take the appearance of either an ugly hag of some sort, long sharp fingernails, scraggly hair, pale skin, the usual white eyes, the kind of stuff that you would normally associate with an ugly, like say, creature or hag of some sort. And if we go by the spirit side, it's something like involving a ghost, where it can travel by air, it can appear in certain places, it can change appearances, in fact, because the way it attacks sometimes is it turns into a beautiful woman, and that's how it frequents its and comes about its targets. And then if we go by the notion of, let's say, a vampire, then it actually eats, and its favorite prey is newborn babies because of the blood, but it also feasts on men in particular, and then in some cases it attacks women as well. Again, the whole purpose is to try to feed on its blood, because that's how it continues to live throughout its existence. So again, a whole combination of different things. So this Pontianak there, again, is found in Indonesia, but tales about it have been consisting for hundreds of years, and the usual thing goes like this. Its favorite target, easiest target, is men, and that's because men are stupid. If you see a young, beautiful looking woman, which this thing again can apparently turn into, and it starts, let's say, flirting or hitting on some men, they are such easy prey at that point. All it takes is having a young man in an isolated location and a young beautiful woman that's really a Pontianak to distract it, and then once it's away and it's at a location where it can pounce and do its attack, then that's it. It'll actually kill its victim by digging into the stomach of the victim, its sharp fingernails, ripping out its organs, and then feasting all of the blood. In some cases, it actually emasculates the men. I'll use that term loosely, emasculates the men, and that way it'll ensure that before the men dies, it knows that it's going to have a very bad experience. Another way that it does it and attacks is if you're being, let's say, stalked by this thing, and you happen to have your eyes open when a Pontianak is near, then it will have the ability to suck the eyes out of your head from a distance. Crazy, crazy stuff. How the Pontianak know where men are around in particular is it hunts by clothes, because in the area in Indonesia, it's very popular, especially in the rural areas, to leave clothes hanging out to dry, especially at night. And so all it does is it sniffs around, and if it happens to find the telltale sign of men, the smell of men in clothing nearby, then that's when it'll locate its prey and wait for the ambush. That's why to this day, many of the people that live there do not have any other clothing out at night. Either they do it throughout the day, or they do it someplace else where it's safer in that regard. Now, how do you tell that a Pontiac is also nearby? Pontiac? All you have to do is listen, and there's very distinct ways to hear a Pontiac. The idea is when it's on the prowl, they'll have several different distinctions of sounds. One is you'll hear a baby cry, but obviously you and I, we hear baby cries all the time, especially if we're near populated areas. But the key is to hear a baby cry if you're going to be in an isolated area, the kind of area where you normally wouldn't expect something like that. The idea also is how you hear the baby cry means the distance that the Pontianak is away from you. If the cry is soft, then that means that actually the Pontianak is nearby. It's actually pretty close to you, which is a bad thing. It's trying to get your guard down, because the whole thing about hearing a baby cry is naturally somebody will be looking around making sure that the baby could be helped, and when that happens, then you fall into their trap. But if you hear a cry, a baby cry, and if it's loud, then it's actually far away, because the Pontianak is trying to get people closer to it. And the best way to do it is to make its presence known and scream as loud as it can, as a baby would, so that way it can attract people from far away. Another sound that it makes, same concept, different animal, is a dog. If you hear a dog howl, that means that the Pontianak is far away. Again, which makes sense, because if it's trying to attract people from a distance, let's say it's isolated, then the best way to do it is to howl as loud as it can, as a dog would, and that way it could attract people. But if you hear a dog whining, like let's say the cries that dogs do whenever they're hurt, then that means the Pontianak is actually nearby. And so that's another presence, another indication that something bad is going to happen. And yet another sense that you can use to know that a Pontianak is nearby is if all of a sudden you're in an isolated area and you smell a very soft floral fragrance, something that smells really, really nice, but all of a sudden that fragrance changes to something really bad, like an awful stench, like let's say rotting meat or something along the lines of trash, rotting trash, anything like that, then you have the presence of a Pontianak nearby, because it's trying to lure people in with the scent, and then its real scent, in this case like something that smells really, really bad, comes through, and that's not good. So you want to be in a different area altogether. Now, as far as the Pontianak and how to defeat this thing, there are several ways to do so. Apparently, with it being in existence for so long, people have discovered various ways to ensure that, hey, if I'm going to have a Pontianak attack me, these are the weaknesses. This is how to stop it. The most common way is you have a nail, either like a wooden nail or a metal nail, anything as long as those nails used in carpentry or any kind of construction. And all you have to do is take that nail and drive it through the neck of the creature. And here's the interesting part. If you do this, apparently the creature will change back to the beautiful woman it once was, and then on top of that, she will essentially become normal. There's no more Pontianak, in other words. The killing spree stops, the ghosts, the hauntings, the blood drive, everything stops. And that's when the person is back to normal. And you have to keep that nail there on the woman's neck at that point until forever, because the idea is if this nail for whatever reason ever gets removed, then that's when the Pontianak takes back its form. Think of it like almost like anything involving the Hulk. I know it's weird to use that analogy, but as long as you're to make the Hulk angry, then he doesn't become the Hulk. Same thing here. As long as you don't remove the nail, then the woman in turn doesn't become the Pontianak. That's why the Pontianak's home and residence is nowhere near anything involving thorns or any other sharp objects, because all it takes is one of those things accidentally or purposely impaling the back of her neck, and then that's it. She becomes back to a normal woman, and the Pontianak is gone, at least for that moment. Another way to do so, and this is a little bit harder, but apparently it can be done, if one doesn't have a nail in their possession, then all you have to do is, as this thing is tracking and haunting or hunting you or whatever, just, if you have a chance, pull one single strand of hair, one, from the Pontianak's head. And when you do so, it'll either be weakened or it'll stop, and it'll be to the point where you can escape. And this is interesting, because when you do this, it either turns back into the woman, or it'll reveal the hole on the back of its neck, almost like a video game of some sort. You know how when you battle certain bosses, if you make certain moves on the boss, then it'll stop temporarily enough for you to do several killing strikes. Same concept here. As long as you're able to pull a single thread of hair from its head, then that's it. It'll stop momentarily and then allow you to do other things. And then some people even take the proactive approach. These are several ways to do so. One is the banana tree is the location of the Pontianak. For whatever reason, I don't know why it has to do with a banana tree, but the Pontianak's home is a region of banana trees. That's why most people there in Indonesia try to stay away from the banana trees, or because they know that that is where the bad locations are. Obviously, some of the people there that are farmers and maybe make these trees, they probably do other things to try to make sure the Pontianak, if it's there, does not attack. And here's one way. All you have to do is just take a red thread that's located from the banana tree. The red thread is usually actually in the middle of the leaf itself. I think you'll see a picture of it here. And you take this thread and then you put it at the foot of your bed. And when you do so, then the Pontianak either A, does not ever attack you, and then also on top of that, B, it becomes trapped. It becomes almost like your slave of some sort. Because it has to do your bidding thereafter. For whatever reason, when you take something from its possession, let's say a banana tree suspected to be the home of a Pontianak, because not every banana tree will be a home, but some of them will. And so if one of them is suspected to be the actual home of a Pontianak, and you take that thread, put it on your own bed, then that Pontianak is yours. They are doing your bidding. What people have done with the Pontianak, I don't know, but presumably it's to ensure that it does not attack them. The other proactive approach is when a new child is born, but is born stillborn. These are the ways, and the same case, in this case with a mother. If a mother is dying and she dies while pregnant, these are the ways in Indonesia to prevent these dead corpses from becoming Pontianaks. And this is what they do. They take a hen's egg, put them under each armpit of the person. Then they take a needle and place them in the palm of each person's hand. And then they take some kind of glass beads or something close to it and place them in the mouth of each dead person. And then they follow up with some kind of chant or some kind of incantation. And when they do that, that's supposed to stop the Pontianak. And the reason why this is done in particular is because the Pontianak's favorite thing is corpses and of dead babies. And in fact, the reason for this is also because whenever a baby is being born and there's a lot of blood gushing out from the pregnant woman, this is also a favorite thing of the Pontianak. So anything involving this, the death of, let's say, a woman, or the death of a baby after pregnancy, all it is about preventing the proactive approach. Of doing the proactive approach and preventing these things from becoming a Pontianak. Going back also to the idea of how the city became Pontianak there in Indonesia. This is a story I promised I was going to tell everybody here. It was said that, and you have to go back a couple hundred years, because the foundation of this city was sometime in 1771. So sometime before that, there was a banshee of some sort that was called a Pontianak, who lived in a village or lived nearby a village. She was feeding, and particularly on newborn babies, and so the villagers were not having it. Obviously, they were having enough. This is how the Pontianak would attack. She could apparently detach her head, and the head would almost be like a scout of some sort. It would fly over the village. It would look for newborn babies, or it would look for pregnant women, and then of course isolated men. And as it would do this, once it found somebody, it would summon its body. Its body would then come back, attach itself to the head, and then it would do the hunt. Like, it would actually kill the person. And then, with regards to this flying head, people described it there as having entrails attached, and then you could also detect the Pontianak by the ear-piercing screeches and wails as it was on the hunt. So obviously this village was terrified for so long, and they were finally, that's it. They would not have any more of this. They had enough of these attacks. So what they did is they purposely had, in this case, a pregnant woman, once they guessed or essentially were able to make the date of her birth, of the baby's birth, down to a certain time period, they had an attack ready for the Pontianak. So when the baby was being born and the new blood was coming out from the pregnant mother, they realized that that's when the Pontianak would be nearby, and sure enough, there was the head floating around the village. It was on the hunt. It heard the screams of the pregnant woman. It smelled the blood. It was ready to yet again take another life. But this time the village was ready. Whenever the Pontianak's head arrived at the specific house of the ambush, they had the house barred from everything to go within. All windows, all doors, everything was completely barred, and the Pontianak was not having it. They knew that the Pontianak would try to find a different way to get in, and so they left a portion under the house with like a floorboard open. And so knowing that the Pontianak would search for that area and then find this particular crack on the floorboard, they waited in ambush as the head popped through this floorboard, and that's when they attacked. They threw a net over over the head, and they prevented it from attacking anyone else. But the Pontianak was not through yet. It apparently screamed as much as it could to alert its body that it was under attack. The body ran forward, or flew forward, or whatever, came right into I guess outside its home. But that's when the villagers had another surprise. They were waiting outside of the Pontianak's home, which is presumably again some sort of banana tree. So they were attacking on two fronts. They had the attack on the pregnant woman's home with the head, and then the other group was outside the Pontianak's home nearby, waiting for the body to react. And sure enough, when it came out, they attacked the body. They put the flames right to the body. They burned it, and they destroyed it. And then the head was also destroyed at the same time. And that was the end of the Pontianak right then and there. And so to commemorate this occasion, they decided to actually name the village Pontianak after this, and to this day that area apparently has not had any other attacks of any kind. Fascinating stuff, no? I mean, this is by far some of the most interesting stuff I've come across. The idea that the foundation of the city was from a real life cryptid, and I don't know, I mean, I don't know how real all of this is or how true all of this is, but again, with something like this happening, and this tale being passed down for who knows how many hundreds of years, to the point that, again, that's the foundation of the city, you have to wonder if some of it is actually true. I mean, because if people pass this all this time and they truly believed in it, they haven't changed any iteration of it. The idea that this actually occurred with the foundation of the city makes you wonder if there truly is other Pontianaks out there in this world. Crazy, crazy stuff. Very fascinating information. So I was happy to find all of it and to share with you this strange cryptid and how it comes about and how it is with its attacks. To this day, again, people still report attacks. There's one that I found on the paranormal.about.com website And it was the idea of a person there in Malaysia seeing a strange thing. She saw a woman that would frequent a car, a particular car, a BMW, there in her apartment complex. And this happened over several days. And so she became puzzled and she started asking others, and others were apparently paying attention to this now, but they didn't really think much of it. But then one day they heard something, like they heard like a strange screech, and when they got outside, at night, they saw that this woman was actually now on the roof of the car, squatting on it, just, I guess, waiting for something or someone in particular to come by. That's when they realized that this was the Pontianak, because usually the way the Pontianak lives in the branches, in the banana tree branches, is it squats on the branch waiting for the attack. And so they told the owner of the car, and the owner, immediately knowing the tales of the Pontianak, threw away that car, just completely disposed of it. And they realized that this car must have been owned by someone else. In this case, somebody that died, a woman, presumably that was either murdered while she was pregnant in the car, or died of an accident from within, like, let's say, the car itself. So that's one other instance of a known tale. And then lastly, I have, as a treat for everybody, there's a YouTube video of an attack by a Pontianak, but it's not actually like an attack. It's more like a Pontianak grazing by the window of a police station there in Malaysia. I don't know if this is fake. I've seen it. It's obvious. I mean, it's real. It was filmed real. There's no effects like obvious CGI or anything like that. But I don't know if it's fake yet, because it seems like these guys, the way they react to this thing grazing by the window, it seems that it's pretty, I don't know, it just doesn't seem natural. But it's up to you to decide. So I've included the link below. It's not too long, it's just about 2 minutes or so. But all you see is the policemen filming themselves playing a game of chess, and they're just filming, and then all of a sudden something grazes by their window, which looks like the Pontianak. And then that's when they freak out and they try to go outside. But yeah, check out the link when you have a chance. If anyone else has any other information about the Pontianak, please post them below. Share those comments. It'd be fascinating to hear any other purported encounters with this strange creature. So, alright everybody, thanks again as always. Take care.